YouTube fan community, Beach Boys fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we're here today for the very first episode of Beach Boys Wednesday. This is a new series I'm starting that's topic-based, and so every Wednesday will be a question about the Beach Boys, kind of a what if, which with the Beach Boys is one of the best games to play. We're beginning this first episode in the 90s. Now, for those of you who don't know the full Beach Boys story, in the mid-90s, they were actually starting to do an album of originals. They finished 2 tracks, You're Still a Mystery and Soul Searchin', which would be released much later on the Made in California box set. These 2 songs show so much potential and so much promise, but from what I've understood, either the project just didn't feel like it was going anywhere, or the songs they had just didn't feel like they related to the times, which, again, it was the Beach Boys in the 90s. From what I understand in my own research and talking to people, this album, either stopped because the idea of Stars and Stripes came up and they focused on that project instead, maybe putting these on the back burner for like an eventual release. Or B, the other story, that Carl wasn't feeling this. I'm not really sure what to believe. It could be a little bit of both, to be honest with you, but the songs that we do have from this era that are completed with the guys, You're Still a Mystery, is easily gonna fit on side 2 of Beach Boys Today, or maybe even Pet Sounds. It's got this classic Brian feel, those really idiosyncratic drum phrases, which he would do over and over and over again throughout his life. Brian's head, when it comes to drums, is something extremely special. It's very, very cool what he comes up with for drum riffs. Vocally, the guys sound great. I like Brian's lead vocal on this thing a lot. The chorus is great, hearing Al very prominently. It sounds like the mid-60s again, but up to date with more modern production, and I'm all for it. Soul Searching', on the other hand, is a much more poppy, straightforward kind of song. Lyrically, maybe not the most imaginative thing ever, but Carl does a great job with it. He doesn't sound full-heartedly into it. There's moments where it comes out, for sure, but overall, it sounds like he's just trying to make it happen to see what Brian would think. And maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was a guide vocal, maybe it was a completed take. We'll never know. But what I'm trying to get to here is that like these songs were pretty much in the can. And obviously Brian had written a ton of stuff with Andy Paley in the early 90s. So there was a wealth of material to work with that hadn't come out yet. So my question is this. It's the mid-90s. The Beach Boys are staples of American TV. They're on Full House. They're on Baywatch. They're on Home Improvement. They're showing up everywhere. They're a household name. You know, people remember the Beach Boys. Kokomo isn't that old yet. It's only 7 or 8 years old, which is, you know, a long gap again for a hit single. But still, it's keeping them afloat. I mean, they definitely milked the Kokomo wave, but why not? My question is this. If the guys followed through on this project, would there have been an audience that accepted it? Obviously, people went to their shows. They still do. This was always the case in the late 70s and all the 80s. Whenever they put out new music, you know, it would sell okay, but their concert draw was humongous. If the guys finished this record and it sounded like a mix of all these 60s influences, nothing like the 90s, whereas the Beach Boys in the 80s sounded like the 80s. Beach Boys 85 and Still Cruisin', while they have elements of their 60s feel, production-wise, and I'd almost go as far as to say vocal-wise, they're trying to sound as modern as possible while still sounding like the Beach Boys. The 2 songs that we get from this project that never materialized sound nothing like the 90s. Like, not even like the schmaltzy, overproduced crap that would come out around that time too for adult contemporary artists. These songs don't fall into any of those feels. For the album to have been successful, would they have to have gone down the road of like the over-the-top, you know, syrupy production of your classic 90s solo artists? Or could they have put out the record the way they wanted it to, sounding like the songs that we have? It's a tough call, to be totally honest with you. It's a really tough call because on one hand, you'd hope that they would have that polished 90s sheen just purely to be on the radio and fit in with everything else. That would be cool. On the other hand, you really want them to stand out and do something different, even if it doesn't get radio play. The guys vocally at this point in their career sound incredible. When you play the background vocals on Stars and Stripes, they're amazing. They sound phenomenal. So to have a record with the guys in their 40s having these voices that are so road tested and they just know what they're going to do for 40 years worth of 30 years of singing and playing together at that point, it could have been the most beautiful sounding thing vocally from them in years. To follow that up even further, because of how disappointing the sales were for Summer in Paradise, and then right after that, the incredibly praised box set, which completely changed the idea of what the Beach Boys were, that thing did a lot of damage control. So to have something with Brian on it where everyone's in a much better place mental health wise, the drugs are gone, everyone's just doing their thing and trying to be healthy and in their 40s, could a mature sounding Beach Boys record, not erase the damage that had been done for Summer in Paradise? Could a really well produced Brian led Beach Boys in the 90s be something people wanted? And the thing is too, this was right around the time of the Beatles anthology. Like 60s nostalgia was high. So there's a lot of factors playing into this. Like the music obviously would have been there, but how would it have been produced? How would it have been marketed? Would they make music videos? Would they go out on tour and play a lot of the new album and be like a current band? Or just play the oldies with a couple of new ones sprinkled in? So that's my question for today. If the Beach Boys released that album in the 90s that they were working on, what do you think would have happened? Would it have changed the idea of how people perceive the Beach Boys? Would it be a Grammy winner? Would it be on the radio? Would it be songs that we're still singing just as memorable as Surfing USA and Do It Again and I Can Hear Music and Good Vibrations? Would it be on par with those songs? So there you go. Tell me what your thoughts would be if this album came out in the 90s and what the aftermath of it would have been. I love these what if games. So thank you for joining me on the very first episode of Beach Boys Wednesday. And I'll see you guys next week with another Beach Boys question. Until then, put your thoughts in the comments below. Very curious to hear what you guys say about this one. And we'll see you next time. See ya.